I'm Victoria Lord, and I'm a arts and music publicist, and I'm really excited to be making my Toronto Mic'd debut.
What up, Mike?
That was perfect.
It's Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome to episode 1857. Yes, that's the year of my birth, Victoria. 1857.
I think that feels like a lucky number to me.
An award-winning podcast. Did you know that? An award-winning podcast.
I did. I have been fortunate enough to have many clients come and visit and be a part of this podcast over the years. So I'm very excited to be doing something like this for the first time in my career.
See, I like how we're now embedding like teasers into the intro. So let me race through this. No, that's good. I like how you did that, okay? You can do no wrong here, Victoria.
Yay.
Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. Order online at greatlakesbeer.com for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Visit palmapasta.com for more. They're catering my daughter's 10th birthday party this weekend. That's a fact, Victoria. Delicious food there. Fusion Corp's own Nick Iannis. He's the host of Building Toronto's Skyline and Mike and Nick, two podcasts that you ought to listen to. The problem is, Victoria, I ran out of music because of all of our banter in the middle of this intro. So let me just quickly thank recyclemyelectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. And of course, Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. And as you heard, joining me today, making her Toronto Mic'd debut, and I'm going to learn in a moment, it may be your podcast debut. It's Victoria Lord. Welcome, Victoria.
Thanks, Mike. I'm really excited to be here.
Is this your podcast debut?
This is my interview debut. I have for 33 years been setting up interviews for lots of people, but I have never been in front of a mic before. I've always chosen to stay in the background, and so this is a debut.
You're
of
leaving
debuts.
your comfort zone.
I'm actually feeling very excited about this, and I don't know if the comfort plays a part in it, but I just thought it was time, and I'm a avid listener of this podcast, so
Wow.
it was excited to be invited.
So I'm honored that you chose Toronto Mic'd as the place where you're finally going to tell your story, because you're a name many of us content creators, I don't know if that sounds like I don't know if I want to be known as a content creator, but many of us people who host shows like this, we know the name Victoria Lord. Like, we know you.
I've been around for a while. It's true. And the name itself is memorable, I think. I get a lot of comments about that name. And I will just want to clear up that, yes, that is actually my name.
Well, that was my first question, because it sounds like a nom de plume.
Well, it's interesting. If you Google Victoria Lord, you're going to have to go through about 8 or 10 pages of Victoria Lord, who's a character on Days of Our Lives. And
no, yeah. I'm going to correct you. I feel like Robert Lawson. I did my homework. It's not Days of Our Lives.
Is it not Days of Our Lives? Okay. Well,
you want me to give you the story here?
Please do.
Okay, so Victoria Lord is a fictional character and the matriarch of the Lord family on the American soap opera One Life to Live.
Oh, there you go.
So you've been wrong about your soap opera of choice, but I will say that for 41 years, 6-time daytime Emmy award-winning actress Erica Slezak, I'm not sure how you pronounce the surname, but this woman, Erica with a K, played Victoria Lord for 41 years.
Well, you know what? I've had to sort of live up to that because she's quite has had quite the life. I have not been jailed. I don't think I've had multiple personalities, and
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, well, all of those things. Yeah.
So what made you decide it's finally time to tell the Victoria Lord story when, for your entire professional career, which we'll learn more about in a moment, but you've been there to help others share their stories?
Yeah, you know what? I come from the school of thought that, I am there to promote my clients and to help them build their profile, and in doing so, want to always present those opportunities to them. why I chose now, I think that the world of PR that I'm in is changing, and with social media, I think I have had to promote myself a little bit more just in terms of my business. And I it's not that I've ever been reluctant to do it. I just have never felt the need to share the spotlight in any kind of way with my clients. And I think now it's an opportunity to tell people a little bit about my story, what I've done, how I think, how I feel, about the work that I do. Just the, opportunity to share a little bit about who I am.
Why don't we do this then? Why don't you start telling your story? And I will tell you right now, I did load up one song because there is a topic that we're going to dive into, but I'm guessing you'll actually bring this topic up during our little chat here. So I will press play on a song when you say the magic words, but why don't you start us off? Tell us a bit more about this Victoria Lord, since all I know about is the One Life to Live character, Victoria Lord.
Okay, well, should I start at the beginning? Or
yeah, let's go. We'll converse about it because I'm a curious cat.
Okay.
And again, I'm listening in the headphones, and you do not sound nervous because you don't sound nervous. I can tell when a guest is nervous. You're not nervous.
It's very comfortable here. I'm not at all nervous.
I'm not even recording.
Okay, great. Well, so where do we start? I guess I'm going to start with how I ended up in this career. I was an English major at U of T.
Me too.
And were you? Yeah,
a double major, English and history over here. I feel like that beats you maybe.
Nice. Well, I did English and film, really easy to get a job with that kind of criteria.
Well, you did it.
Well, my goal really was I wanted to work in publishing, and I got an internship at Random House and in the publicity department, and I had no idea what publicity was, but I threw myself in, and while I was filing everything, I was reading as much as possible, and I guess I made an impression because after a few months, I was hired on a contract to work on my first paid publicity job. And of all the books that I worked on Pope John Paul's memoirs. So to even read his book, I had to read 3 books simultaneously to be able to understand what he was talking about.
Listen,
but that
I went
was
to Catholic
my introduction.
schools. That man's face, and this is Pope John Paul II. Right?
This is true.
He was all, his photo would be in the schools.
Yeah.
I can still visualize the photo. He was he was our supreme leader.
He was, and an incredibly intelligent man. And at 23 years old, trying to, not having any background in the Catholic religion and really trying to understand it and trying to do the best that I could to participate in this opportunity, I delved in and I read the book, and that was sort of the start of the journey. And then from there, I was referred to another job where I started to work on the Toronto Jazz Festivals, or it was actually back in, do you remember Du Maurier when they were sponsoring everything? So it was for the PR firm that was handling the
Du Maurier Jazz Festival. Is that what it was called?
That's right. And there were jazz festivals across the country, and they were also in the fashion world, and so I had the opportunity to really learn the craft in the arts, and I'd come from the arts in terms of who I was personally. I grew up around music. I fancied myself as a singer at one point, and so it was a very sort of natural fit for me. And while I was working with Du Maurier on the Toronto Jazz Festival, I was recruited by the great folks at Verve Records, and I went to Polygram, and eventually we were bought by Universal, and I was through that transition, and I left there when I had my first child, who is now 24 and finishing up.
You ready for this? I have a 24-year-old.
Do you really?
So
we have so much in common.
I had no idea.
Okay.
Which college at U of T did you go to?
I was at Innis College because I was interested in the film. I was originally at Victoria, and then I switched over to Innis. And
Victoria had one of the nicest buildings,
right? Yeah. Really lovely.
I would hang out at Victoria College because I liked hanging out there, but I actually was affiliated with St. Michael's College.
Okay. Oh, fantastic.
Hence my Pope John Paul II expertise.
There you go. And you have a 24-year-old. So yes, I do too.
This is a boy, girl? What is this?
So my son, Graham, he is just finishing his second year at U of T Law.
Wow, smarter than my oldest. I'm jealous.
Pretty great. Well, I want to hear all about your oldest as well. My son's also a musician. He's played saxophone, and he continues to play sax, and he gigs on the side with a great band called Reg Addiction, and so he's constantly doing that as well. He's a busy guy. Don't get to see him as much as I'd like, but because of that, but he's great. So when I was home with him on mat leave, I got a phone call from, actually, it was the Songwriters Association of Canada, Blair Packham, the wonderful Blair Packham.
Do you know he's here tomorrow?
Is he really?
Yeah.
Okay, these coincidences are
he's here tomorrow
crazy.
because we have a quarterly Toronto Mic'd episode where we talk about what's new in the Canadian media landscape over the previous 3 months. And he comes over every single quarter to do that. There's a lot to talk about this episode, but tomorrow is the next episode of Rewinder. And before you say another word, Victoria Lord, that's your real name,
That's
eh?
my
That's
real
an amazing name
yeah.
here. I feel like I need to tell you, I need to play the Rewinder song. Hold on.
Excellent.
Rewinder with the Packham, who is also known as Blair, and Mikey Boon Boon too. Rewinder, looking back and yippee hopping on the air for the quarterly review. Rewinder, skiddly boddly doodly. Rewinder, bibbity bobbity noodly. Rewinder with the Packham, who is also known as Blair, and Mikey Boon Boon too.
So it's amazing to
Love
me
that.
hearing you tell me Blair Packham plays like a role in your
Huge.
story.
I don't even know if he realizes it. He is, as you know, one of the funniest people. So intelligent and with the biggest heart. He's just wonderful.
I might have to pull that for him. And
He
play it for
really,
him
yeah.
tomorrow.
I just think the world of him. I haven't seen him in a long time, actually. But
Well,
so
hang
please
out.
give him my
You
love.
can
Yeah.
spend the night and see him tomorrow.
See him tomorrow. So Blair called and said, we're doing this Bluebird North tour, and I know you're on mat leave, but would you work on this tour for us? And then somebody at Roy Thompson Massey Hall heard that I was also doing some freelancing, and so they called. And then a certain folk iconic singer.
Hold on. You said it.
Yes, there we go.
Let's listen for a bit here before we dive into this.
If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell.
You're a singer. You want to sing along with Gordon?
Just like
I'll be in tears. It still hurts. I gotta say.
Well, on that note, then listen closer. I'll be quiet, and I got Kleenex here if you need it.
Or a fortress strong with chains upon my feet. You know that ghost is me, and I will never be set free as long as I'm a ghost that you can't see. If I could read your mind, love, what a tale your thoughts could
If I could read your mind, Victoria,
just like a paper.
what would I know about your relationship with Gordon Lightfoot?
Well, I miss him. I think of him often. I speak with Kim, his lovely wife, regularly. She's one of my closest friends. He was a big part of my life. I got that call from Bertie Fiedler and asked me to do some work for him. And 22 years later, I was the person that had to let the world know that he had left us. And that was an incredible moment in my career, as you can imagine. It was really wanting to do everything that I could to honor and represent Gordon and his family and my relationships with the media. And I was getting calls from around the world. I got calls from India and Dubai, and it was 36
Global
hours.
icon.
36
Everybody
hours
knows
of,
Gordon Lightfoot.
It was really quite. We'd had that scare that the rumor had passed that he had passed.
Well, can we slow down and get into that, because it does come up often here, but it was reported on which station reported it?
Well, it was Can West that went with it first. And I remember that day because it was actually 11 years ago, or it was last month, 11 years ago, last month. And I was at a meeting, and I think it was like 45 minutes or an hour in between meetings. And I decided to get myself a sandwich and a coffee and go have a little time by myself. And I turned my phone off, which is something I don't do. And during that time, the reporter, whose name I can't recall, from Can West, was trying to get a hold of me because he had gotten a hold of this rumor. And I think what he had said to me is that, well, you didn't pick up your phone, so I assumed that you were avoiding media because you always pick up your phone. And in that time, he ran with the story, and it was absolute madness. It was absolute
But
madness.
that's a legitimate journalism outfit, Ken West, that they must have rules to corroborate such things, especially if you're recording that somebody has passed away.
I think there was a
He's
lot
not
of
a blogger is what I'm saying. He's not
No.
some blogger who ran with
There was a
tip.
lot of that happening at that time, you know, that these the internet rumors were taking hold for some reason. I understand that he also reached out to Ronnie Hawkins, and Ronnie Hawkins had also heard the rumor and confirmed it based on the rumor, and it just got a little discombobulated. So,
Say no more, okay?
Yeah.
When Ron Hawkins may have. We don't know what he said to this journalist.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know if this is true, but I heard that his wife was faxing out, you know, messages to people. Like it got big really fast, as it would, because Gordon was beloved. And you know, what was really happening was Gordon was at the dentist, and we didn't, you know, and he heard it while he was there, and he reached out, and we were able to correct that. But it took a while, and I thought that day, you know, very clearly, I remember thinking there will come a day that this is going to be real for me, and maybe this is a bit of a taste of what it's going to be like. And in terms of the onslaught of the media onslaught, that was definitely there. But what I hadn't counted on was the grief that I was dealing with, and, you know, it was 36 hours straight that I was dealing with media from around the world.
Right.
And I think I maybe slept for about an hour and a half. I had a friend staying with me at the time, and she says I didn't sleep, but I think I might have dozed for a little while. But you know, really just you're on autopilot, and you're trying to be available for everybody who needs it, and that included, you know, members, you know, from the estate, and we had planning to do in terms of how we were going to, you know, funeral arrangements and getting calls from incredible people who wanted to attend the funeral, and just sort of managing all of that. I you know, Jesse Kumagai at Roy Thompson Massey Hall, who I've known for many, many years, was an absolute angel in terms of coming to help me. And we were organizing security for Aurelia. There was just so many things to be done. And I think I didn't allow myself to grieve until it was all done. You know, I think it was about 3 days after I had a meeting with my clients at Sony Music, and I just said, you know, I think I'm just going to take today off. And it was... I just completely crumbled.
Well, you worked for over 2 decades with
did.
Gordon Lightfoot.
I
So
did.
maybe now is a good time to talk about how that experience with Gordon, you know, shaped you, like both professionally and personally. Like, tell me a little bit about the man.
Well, you know, when I first started working with him, he rarely did interviews. He wasn't comfortable. He was a little afraid of giving too much information. He was in the process of really rebuilding relationships with his kids, and he was very sort of protective, and he didn't do a lot. So over the years, you know, we kind of made him feel a little bit more comfortable. And I, at the beginning, sat in on all of his interviews, and then over time, he was sort of very comfortable to have conversations. And I would schedule somebody for 20 minutes, and I'd say to them, you know, clear your calendar, because he'll keep talking. He's very generous, and, you know, he will keep talking, and he would stay on the phone with folks. So in terms of, you know, work, you know, I miss the days, you know, he would call me quite regularly, and when he'd call, he'd always say, Victoria, it's Gordon Lightfoot, and he'd always introduce
Gordon
himself.
who?
I know, he'd always introduce himself that way, and I'd say to him, you know, I can tell by your breath, the way you breathe. I know it's you,
Right.
you know. But he was just incredibly generous and, you know, meticulous. You know, one of the things that I love about him and that I miss about him is he always wrote in pencil. Even if he was doing a shopping list, he always wrote in pencil, because he would say there's always room for, you know, improvement, you know, and that's sort of the way that he approached everything in life, I think. So he taught me a lot about that. He was anybody who've met him knows he's incredibly humble, incredibly generous, and really straight. You never got any BS with him. He really just said what he thought, and I think that was rare.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back a bit. So I have so many questions about
Sure.
the fake announcement about his
Yes.
death. Okay, so you turned your phone off, and there's a Can West journalist who's I guess asking for, is this true? Because they've heard a rumor, and then it sounds like we're blaming the late great Rompin' Ronnie Hawkins here for possibly telling this journalist that, yeah, my buddy Gordon is dead. Is that what might have happened?
That's what I understand. I mean, I'm sure everybody has their stories, but this was certainly my experience, is that's what this journalist told me, that he got his confirmation.
Yeah, because it makes the journalist's life, I don't know if Hawkins confirmed or denied those allegations, but this makes a journalist's life, at least they can say, like, well, there were rumblings, but then I confirmed it with his good friend Ron Hawkins and not the guy from Lowest at the Low.
That's
Ron
right.
Hawkins.
That's right. Different Ron Hawkins.
When I die, people will be confirming it with Ron Hawkins from Lowest to the Low. I think that's how that's going to go down here. But then, what are the steps? What are the steps when you catch wind of the fact that there is a story now out there circulating that the legend at 71 years old, again, this didn't actually happen, but at 71 years old, Gordon Lightfoot had passed away. Like, what are the steps you take to, I guess, extract some lemonade from all these lemons flying around?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, at that point I was so associated with Gordon that, and I'm even to this day highly responsive. If you call me, you usually hear back from me pretty right away. That's part of the way that I operate. So an assumption was made, a mistake was made. I think that it was also at a time where these rumors were happening of celebrities passing, but it was early in that sort of process. So he got taken, and that's unfortunate. I think that, it was a difficult day for a lot of people. It was a really difficult day for Gordon's family. I mean, I had heard from his assistant that, his grandson had heard it on the radio and didn't know it was true, if it was true. And that was really hard. And Gordon wasn't carrying a cell phone, so we had to wait for him to call in to let us know where he was. So we didn't.
And he was at the dentist, right?
He was at the dentist, yeah. And he heard it on the radio. And, for years, Jane Stevenson from the Toronto Sun
She's
wrote...
been over here.
Yeah, she's fabulous. Good friend. She wrote a story, and the cover story, I believe the title, the headline was "Rumors of My Death Have Been Exaggerated" or something like that. But
rumors of my demise.
Yes, he loved it. He loved it, and he kept that. By the couch at the front door, he kept that copy for years, and he'd pick it up and he'd laugh about it. So.
And I do know, because I've had radio people on who would talk about that. I guess that afternoon, Gord started calling into radio stations. And here's an interview with reports of his demise greatly exaggerated. We have Gordon Lightfoot on the phone to prove his
we set that up. But the first call was to Rudy Blair, who's
he was telling this story.
Yeah, it was Rudy, because Rudy again, a great friend.
I'm like, who told this story recently? Rudy Blair.
It was for Rudy Blair, yeah. So we set it up that he called into Rudy, and then we verified it with other
News, right?
That's right. And so we did a bit of that, and then clean that up, and it was just sort of exhausting, and just again, I thought of it as a prelude to what would eventually I'd be dealing with, but I couldn't have known.
But this is kind of good. I think from a PR standpoint, I feel like this is one of those situations where you can extract a lot of lemonade, because suddenly the awareness of Gordon Lightfoot's going to shoot up, right? The fact that it's reported he's dead, he's not dead, he was just at the freaking dentist. Now it's like, yeah, I'm alive and well, and by the way, I've got a tour coming up. Right?
Everyone's covering this. We didn't do that. We could have, but we certainly didn't do that.
I know there are newspaper articles out there which would say, like, it's an easy story to write. Like, okay, quotes from Gordon about how he was I can't believe they reported this, I'm alive and well, and then in that article it would be like, he's got a tour coming up, get your tickets now.
Might be the last time. No,
it's possible though. If you weren't such a lovely person, I would say that you could fake an artist's death just to extract this kind of media.
It could certainly be done. Certainly now, in the way that the internet takes off with a story, it could certainly be done.
Would you help? Would you be my PR person? And let's fake I died.
Well,
then they'll go to Ron Hawkins at Lowest to Low to confirm my death, and then I'll just surprise! I'm at the Elmo on May 21st. Get your tickets now.
That was a nice plug. Excellent. Well, you know what? There's always got to be a strategy, Mike. There's always got to be a strategy. So absolutely. Interestingly enough, when Ian Tyson passed, Gord called me and said, there they're not talking about it. People are not talking about it. And he asked me, he said, I want to do some interviews, set some up because I want to talk about my friend and what he, what he gave and what he represented. And, and he said, it was quite a beautiful thing. So
that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the convo I had because I have a lot of convos down here. At some point in this chat, you're going to tell me everybody you've sent over here. Okay, that'll be. I don't know if you have a list in your mind, even if it's a short list. Because I noticed one name not on that list is Gordon Lightfoot.
You know what? Again, he didn't do a lot of interviews, but he was better over the years. But he didn't do a lot of interviews. But you're right. I did deprive you of Gordon.
You deprived me of Gordon Lightfoot, which I'll never forgive you for.
I owe you on that.
When Gordon did pass away, sadly, I know we touched on that when he actually died. I actually did a special episode with Dave Hodge, and it was really beautiful to hear Dave Hodge talk about not only what Gordon Lightfoot's music meant to him, but what his friendship with Gordon Lightfoot meant to him. Kind of a beautiful little thing I put in the Toronto Mike feed with the legend that is Dave Hodge. So that was cool. But quick on Ian Tyson, the name that came to mind is Lloyd Robertson. Like, I remember having a chat on Toronto Mike with Lloyd Robertson where Lloyd was talking about his time spent with the late, great Ian Tyson and I guess, I don't know, Alberta Ranch or something, and they spent some real time together.
Lovely.
But that was kind of interesting.
Well, I got to spend some time with Gordon and with Lloyd as well, because Lloyd came to the house and did a long interview with them, so we got a lovely interview. And I also I have this great photo. It's one of my treasures with Gordon and Peter Mansbridge at Massey Hall, and I really consider that those are three icons in that photo, not including myself, but Massey itself, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's great that when they did all that, the renovations to Massey, that they were able to reopen it with Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah, absolutely. And closed it. He closed it. He also did the last concert.
Right before they shut it down.
That's right. Well, his residencies there were an important part of the Massey Hall history, and they were a real homecoming for all of family and friends, and it was just it was a special time.
Now, when I think back on, Gordon Lightfoot, a legend, and you knew him personally, and you knew him very well. Of course, you worked with him for over 20 years. But I think of some of the great Gordons we've lost lately. Like, I feel like there are a number of Gordons that are like important Canadian icons, and we've lost a few of them recently. And I'm wondering, what do you think is the legacy of Gordon Lightfoot? Like, what exactly does he leave behind for this country that will never die?
Well, he had a way of capturing Canadian life, Canadian experiences in such honesty, with such purity and real precision. I think people may not know this about Gordon, that he really worked on a song. He would work on it, rewrite it. And, when he wrote Edmund Fitzgerald, he talked about, having gotten every news item he could, and he researched. He just wanted to make sure that he had every detail correct, and that he honored those lost in the way that was as accurate as possible. And he was really precise in that way. And one beautiful thing, I just recently worked with I believe it was with Reuters on a story about the 50th anniversary for Edmund Fitzgerald, and that reporter told me that when Gordon had passed, they rang the bells, one for each soldier, each victim lost, and then an extra one for Gordon, and that brought me to tears because at his funeral they also rang the bells for each of those Edmund Fitzgerald.
I was going to say, we're both, I'm the history major, right? You're the English and film major. Okay, are you the history major? Okay, but
definitely not history major.
But I'll tell you right now, I'm, a Gen Xer who learned about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald from Gordon Lightfoot. Yeah, like he and this is what I love about the music of Gordon Lightfoot. He's embedding history in there, and I will shout out another Gordon who did this also. But the lyrics of Gordon Downey.
Yeah.
Also embedding Canadian history. I'm shouting out Stompin' Tom Connors right now. The man did the same thing. We just did 2 episodes, and I'm going to use that. This is the master of doing 1,857 episodes of Toronto Mike Victoria, because now I'm going to segue to Dave Bedini, Do you know Dave Bedini personally?
I have met him over the years, but I wouldn't say that I know him well. He may not know me, but I certainly know him and his career, and I've definitely been at his shows over the years.
Would you meet Gord? I'm not Gord. Why did I say that? Would you meet Dave Bedini for a Great Lakes beer?
Of course.
Okay, so I'm sending you home with some fresh craft beer from Great Lakes Brewery.
Excellent.
Okay, so back to Bedini for a moment here. He was over here a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about how he played a role in the comeback of Stompin' Tom Connors in the mid to late 80s. Bedini plays a role in this. It's quite something.
I don't know this story at all.
Yeah, well, you got to go listen to Dave Bedini's most recent. Come on, Victoria. In a minute, I'm going to grill you on what episodes.
I miss that.
So, okay, Bedini, I'm coming back to Bedini, but I'm going to briefly rant. As a PR person, maybe you'll appreciate this, but I had a guest on, the most recent guest of Toronto Mike, actually, before you.
Okay.
Who it became apparent as we were talking that he didn't really get this show. And I always, when you send somebody over to do something, is it just they go in cold, or do you give them a little, this is the vibe of that show, the type of show, I'm just curious whether you would send a guest in cold. It's a loaded question, Victoria. I want to know,
sure.
only because it became very apparent very quickly, even just that this person, even though they claim they listened, they hadn't actually listened.
Right. Well, I think it depends on where I'm sending them and who the conversation is and what it is that we want to promote. I might send a client in and say, remember, let's try and mention these 3 things. Here I don't. I think the last guest I sent here, it might have been a while ago, was probably Gil Moore.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I loved my chat with Gil Moore.
Yeah. So yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, and I just said, I didn't give him any instructions. Just go. We were talking about something in particular, and I'm sure he talked about the music education program that he was doing. But he has so many stories to tell. I don't need to.
So from my, I know you know this, but from my perspective, I know the spark that caused Gil Moore to drive to South Etobicoke and come on Toronto Mike. I realize it might be that music education thing, so I know we're going to cover that.
Sure.
So that's in my notes, and we're going to cover that. But I also know Gil Moore is in my basement for an hour, and I have other questions. Okay, and it's funny when I think back to that episode, I remember the highlight to me was asking Gil Moore if he remembers playing a gong on a Change of Heart song from the Change of Heart album, Smile, okay? And this is a Ian Blurden's band, Change of Heart. I don't know how familiar you are with Change of Heart, but there is there's a gong in a song that is credited to Gil Moore, okay? So the source is Bob Wiseman. So Bob Wiseman produces a gong hit by Gil Moore at Gil's studio, and I'm gonna I like to take these little Canadian nuggets that nobody cares about and treat them like we're breaking into the vault of Capone. Okay, this is. So I remember the moment building up with Gil Moore. Do you remember hitting the gong for the Change of Heart song on Smile? And I'm telling you, Gil was a great guest because he just rolled with it. He had no memory of this. He was fantastic. So I'm going to say thank you for sending over Gil Moore. I loved that chat.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Gil didn't know where the hell he was going. You're just you're going here. Yeah.
Knock on the side door and you're just good.
Just roll. You're in good hands, but it's a bit different. It's not, it's not Peter Mansbridge. You're not on the National. Just go with the flow. And he was great.
I remember telling him, just have fun.
Okay,
I remember telling him that.
Tip.
Yeah.
Okay. My most recent guest, who I hope he doesn't hear this, but he was saying things where it was clear to me he didn't know where he was. Okay, I think he was just looking for publicity, which is fine. There's a quick go, but have some idea of where you are. Now, I'm going to go back to Bedini for a moment here, Victoria.
Okay.
We're still in good hands here.
Okay, good.
The Rio Statics, which is Dave Bedini's band,
yes,
they covered The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Did you know that?
I did know that, and over the years, people would send us covers and Gordon's thing was he never heard a cover he didn't love.
Okay, so I asked Dave Bedini. Bedini told me on Toronto Mike, I don't think Gordon Lightfoot liked our cover of Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
He probably he would have heard it. Like if it was sent to him, he would listen. But his standard line was always he loved every cover. You know, he was happy to have the publishing. You know, on that. So,
I don't know if Real Statics are moving those kind of units, but I would say that's
he was always. That was his comeback for sure.
Okay. I was going to ask you if you knew how Gordon Lightfoot really felt about the Real Statics cover of the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, but you might not have that intel at your disposal.
I don't. I mean, I think, you know, if somebody ever gave me something to pass on to him, I always did. And I know...
But this wasn't like hiding... I would say this was like on the radio. This wasn't some obscure band throwing something on an album that no one's ever going to hear. Yeah. Like this is the Real Statics. And that song got airplay.
Yeah, yeah. I never had a conversation with him about it. I do remember Julian Taylor sending something, and I passed it on, and Gordon giving me a message to pass back to Julian.
He's a lovely man. Did you send him over? You can take credit for it if you want.
I didn't send him over. I've never.
Oh, you know what? I actually tracked him down.
But
sometimes
he's great.
I just pursue people.
Yeah.
I think Bob Willett had him on his podcast, and I went to my buddy Bob Willett, who's on Indie 88 right now, and he's here soon for Toast. Cool. And I'm like, Bob, can I have a contact email for Julian Taylor? And then Julian and I had a great chat. He came over, and another fantastic episode. I loved my chat with Julian Taylor. He's really great. Super talented, and one of the nicest people in the business. I like him a lot. Unless we forget the biggest song from Staggered Crossing, his old rock band. Heading out on the 401, don't make you nervous. Like unabashedly Toronto. Yeah, absolutely. I know it's like in that Simpsons scene. Spinal Tap, right? Spinal Tap says, while we were heading down Route 401, and it's like I can see it from my house. Like it's when these artists drop the local references. So shout out to Staggered Crossing. Yeah. So Gordon Lightfoot sadly passed away in 2023. And I do feel like he got his flowers, and I feel like he continues to get his flowers. I don't feel he's one of those underappreciated artists. I think we get what Gordon Lightfoot meant to this country and to music. Absolutely. And I think that's certainly true of a generation. What I hope to do and will continue to do, and I'm sure a lot of people will, is just sort of keep the focus on him and what he gave. I mean, you know, my kids grew up knowing him just as Gordon, and you know, my daughter would like to go and run around that big house and didn't really have any understanding. Gordon would come to my Christmas parties, you know, and I remember the last one, my daughter, I don't know how old she was at the time, but she said to a friend of mine, she says, Auntie, do you play guitar? And he says, yeah, I play a little. And she looked at Gordon, she goes, can you play keyboards? And he said, well, no, but I play a little bit of guitar. She didn't really understand who she was, but she did manage to bring a guitar down, and Gordon led us in a round of Christmas carols in my living room, and that was quite a moment. Unbelievable. Yeah, it was really quite a moment. You know, my neighbors and friends were kind of astonished that this was happening, but sort of my kids never really had an understanding, and so even my son's generation at 24, I think they don't know who he is, and what he's done, and what he's left. But what about that song I played for us? Like a song like that, If You Could Read My Mind. Surely I think it still resonates, but is it and still getting... And there's other, like the Studio 54, who is it? The Stars on... There's like a dance version of that song that's very popular, right? Yeah. If You Could Read My Mind. Yeah. Is it from Studio 54? And his work has been covered by icons. I hope that continues. What we need is Benson Boone to cover If You Could Read My Mind. That would be nice. That's what we got to do. Nice. Keep this alive. And also, because I've got 4 kids, and the youngest ones will be like, my daughter who's turning 10 this weekend, and we're going to eat palma pasta. Do you like lasagna? I love lasagna. I have a lasagna in my freezer for you. Oh, well, thank you very much. Palma pasta. I just want to shout out palma pasta because literally my daughter's in love with the penne with rosé sauce. Like she just loves this and she wants it every birthday or whatever. And we got a thing going on this weekend. But palma pasta, not only great partners to work with, I'll say like it's a family run business. I can talk to Anthony Petrucci. It's the Petrucci family that owns Palma Pasta. It was Palma Petrucci who started it with her husband, Marsilio. And I got to say, not only great people to work with, and they're hyper local, they're in Mississauga and Oakville, but sincerely delicious food. So like, let me know what you think of your lasagna.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. My guy Steve and I are big foodies, and so we know about the lasagna. So.
Who's this Steve gentleman?
Oh well, I won't I won't out him, but he's pretty fantastic. So and a great chef himself. He spoils me.
Okay, you're a lucky woman.
I am.
So you're bringing home the goods. You're bringing home the Palma Pasta, the Great Lakes beer. But I brought up my daughter because she likes to sing, and she'll break into songs. And I'll be like, how do you know that song? Like, we're not talking about Sabrina Carpenter or Taylor Swift or whatever that she might be, exposed to because it's her gen or whatever. I'm talking about like old songs, like not specifically Gordon Lightfoot, but old classics that, I've always known about my whole life. And she'll break into it. And I'll always be like, where did you hear that song? And it's kind of fascinating how she gets a lot of her music. It's stuff that she gets from television. Like it may be, my kid broke in it. Should I stay or should I go? My 12-year-old. And it's like, where'd you get that? Oh yeah, it was on Stranger Things. It's like, of course it was a bit.
Yes,
so it's like suddenly there's a resurgence of the kids. Should I stay or should I go now? And I'm like, where are you getting this clash from? Like, that's kind of wild. Or Kate Bush, for example, and things like that. Yeah. But another huge vehicle for giving my daughter classic music is The Simpsons. Like, my daughter she'll break into like Steely Dan or something.
Love it.
And I'll be like, well, where did you learn that? And she's like, I heard it in The Simpsons. So it's kind of interesting to me that I would tune into I had my local radio and I would hear shows like, I don't know, Ongoing History and New Music and try to teach you about the, Clash and CBGBs and this was what's happening. And maybe you learn about a band like Television or whatnot. And then you had Much Music, like, and I'd watch the videos on Much Music, and hopefully somebody who would give like some context to things and teach you about, and you'd hear things like Gordon Lightfoot in the wild because radio was everywhere and you couldn't help but know the big hits. But nowadays it just seems interesting that like, The Simpsons and Stranger Things, and there's a show, I'll just shout out a quick show here. My daughter she streams this show, Please Might Get, The Goldbergs, okay? And she likes the show The Goldbergs, and it's really like, it exists as like a distribution channel to teach kids about big 80s jams. Like, I mean, so that's like she'll break into like fabulous. Eye of the Tiger by Survivor, and it's like, oh, that's from Rocky 3. Like, how do you know it? It's like, I heard it on the Goldbergs. Yeah. So,
it's interesting. I have a 17-year-old daughter who's a singer and an actress, and her playlist is reaching back to my youth, The Cure and the Smiths, and right. I don't really know where she's finding that, but we played a music game or something over Christmas, like a board game, and she killed it. I don't know where she's getting it all from. But yeah.
And I think what's evergreen, like regardless of whether you were born in the 60s or born in the 90s or born in the 2000s, is there will always be curious cats who have an itch, a desire to learn more. Like, okay, so, I just learned about this band called Led Zeppelin, and they'll dive in through the streaming of their choice. They'll learn about Led Zeppelin, and then maybe if they're really interested, this is my oldest particularly, you'll be like, who are these artists that Led Zeppelin quote unquote borrowed from, or you can interpret that as you will, but it's like, Howlin' Wolf and all these blues artists that inspired Led Zeppelin, and you can really just follow the breadcrumbs, sure. And then but really it all starts with being curious.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You can't really, I don't know how to teach curiosity. Like, some kids are naturally, I know I am, and I think that's why we're talking right now. But some people are naturally curious and they're going to pull at threads and that'll lead somewhere else and then they'll dive into there. And really what I'm trying to do in this freaking podcast. But there are some people who just simply don't have a lot of curiosity beyond the here and now.
Yeah. I hate to say that might be more prevalent with the general public. I know my kids are very curious. Both of them
look at their mom,
about music, but their mom and their dad, we're both in the industry, and so they have a natural curiosity. So the fact that my daughter has a very very playlist, or that it is not necessarily surprising to me, but then I have friends outside of the industry, who have kids who just don't. It's very very
right
vertical.
Like, I don't know how to teach it.
I don't know.
I know. It's And I'm actually, so my oldest, who's 24-year-old, it amazes, we go for these walks every Friday. We have this route we walk, and we talk for like 90 minutes on this walk through the junction, etc. And then I think, what are you listening to these days? And he'll tell me he's going deep into George Harrison solo stuff, and he'll talk about the Bob Dylan stuff he had just, and Neil Young, and we're going in, and I'm like, yeah, like this guy has that curiosity to drill into what happened before his time. And I think there is a great percentage of people I talk to where, oh, that happened before I was born. I don't really care about that. But I'm always baffled. Like, how can you not have interest in what happened before you were born?
Yeah.
Like because what we have now, it all led up to that. Like, this is an important building blocks. Like how do you not care?
I think in my experience and the people that I've been around, curiosity and creativity seem to come hand in hand. Yeah. And I'm working with a young duo that are nominated for a Juno right now, and they do what they describe as sort of mid-century inspired. So they're digging back into Edie Garmet and Frank Sinatra, and they're
We'll shout this duo out.
Yeah, so it's Katie George and Mark Lamacher, who are up for the best vocal jazz album at this year's Juno. So, yeah, they're really fantastic. And I rewrote, updated their bio material and stuff. And both of them, I interviewed each of them individually, and we both of them talked about curiosity and creativity and how that informs their work. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think that curiosity kind of keeps you young and keeps you engaged and keeps you, just alive. And I see it, but I don't see it as much as I would hope to see it in people. Yeah.
Well, there's some hope for the future there. Yeah. So nominated for a Juno, this duo.
Yes.
Should they win the Juno? Do you have to, and I kind of know the answer because I've been digging around, but I did surprise. I had a woman over named Amoy, and she's nominated for her 8th Juno. Okay. Susan Lucci of the Juno Awards. She's fantastic. Reggae artist.
Yes.
But she's never won. And I blew her mind when I told her when she wins that Juno, somebody's going to cut a check. I say it won't be really cutting a check, but somebody's going to have to pay for the actual trophy.
I think you do have to pay for it, yes.
Well, who was over here? Simone Denny was over here.
Yes.
And she told me, it's like, I don't know, $400 to $600. So
I think you may get, I'm not sure exactly. I think you may get one free, but if you want others, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it works exactly. But yes, I think that there is somebody's got to.
But I think that is a mind blow because people just assume, oh, you won this prestigious award. Of course you get the trophy.
They're quite marvelous objects to have. So,
do you have any Junos that any of your clientele say, here's one for you, Victoria?
I have not. No.
Okay, so you mentioned this duo. What's the name of the duo again?
So it's Katie George, and she's done a record called With Strings, and it's been arranged by Mark Lamacher. And so they're up for the Juno. I'm working with them right now.
Okay.
I just had the wonderful opportunity to work with the one, I don't know if you know Lalia Bialy.
Just got nominated for a Grammy.
And I worked with her on to launch the record and then got to work with her on the Grammy.
Okay, but another guest you didn't send over here or even remotely if they couldn't make the basement.
I think maybe we talked about it, but I can still get her for you. No? She's still wrong. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure, but you should talk to her because she is so lovely.
If only I knew her PR representative.
She's so lovely, and she's just had this amazing experience, at the Grammys where she was
Laila Bialy.
Yeah, she was nominated. She nominated herself in the jazz category, and the Grammy folks moved her over into traditional pop. So she was in a category with Brandi Carlile and Barbra Streisand and Elton John and Leafy and like just this incredible array of people. And it was quite a whirlwind PR tour with her for sure.
Okay, so because now we're talking about post Gordon Lightfoot and some people you've worked with, so let me just take a pause here and just thank a couple more partners of Toronto Mic that help fuel the real talk over here so I can have these great conversations. And then I will chastise you and punish you further for not having Laila Bialy on.
I'm going to get her. I'm going to call her the moment.
Well, I can't get Gordon Lightfoot anymore. Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. By the way, this measuring tape, Victoria, is yours from Ridley Funeral Home.
That's going to stay in my purse because I can always use that. Thank you.
You never know what you need to measure. So Brad Jones is the funeral director at Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of this community. And Brad has a podcast called Life's Undertaking, which we record every 2 weeks. And I get to co-host that show. And I highly recommend Life's Undertaking from Ridley Funeral Home. And while I'm recommending podcasts, there's a new show from Nick Iones that features me called Mike and Nick and we basically talk about, it's every 2 weeks as well, what's basically the politics of the time. We just share our perspectives on things and we talk it out. We come from very different perspectives on most issues, but we have a mutual respect and we have just a civil conversation. I feel, Victoria, like we've stopped having civil conversations. Like somebody be like, I like Donald Trump. And then somebody will be like, I wish he were dead. And then the conversation can't happen. Like, I feel like we should be able to have civil discourse about things in this big bad world that we live on.
I agree. I have a memory that relates directly to that, in that I had the privilege of working for many years with John Cleese.
Wow.
Yes,
Faulty Towers.
Monty Python.
Fish Called Wanda?
Yes. An incredible brain, super vocal about his opinions.
Right.
And I was doing interviews with him for some appearances he was doing in the Deep South in the midst of the Trump era. And so I was sitting in, managing interviews with him. And we had the journalists out there asking him, about Trump, and he would just go. And so moments of not having civil conversations was really, I was cringing and trying to manage this as best as possible, but you don't control John Cleese. You just
let me ask you this:
say what he's going to say. And
would you dare tell John Cleese that while he's in the Bible Belt there in the United States, maybe he bite his tongue when it comes to Donald J. Trump?
I wouldn't even try. I just prepare for the fallout. Because he's going to say what he's going to say, and he has every right to say what he's going to say, and he has no fears about that. You see him on,
but you would expect nothing less from John Cleese, right? Like you wouldn't want John Cleese to be censored.
No, absolutely not. But to be in the room, it's a little bit uncomfortable when that's going on, for sure.
I'll bet, but that's actually like kind of it sounds enticing to me, because it sounds authentic of John Cleese to share his feelings on what is happening in the land that he's visiting.
Absolutely. And he's not without a base of knowledge. He's going to say something. He's going to be able to back it up. He's incredibly intelligent man. So he's not going to say something vapid.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Victoria. I will Zoom with John Cleese. Just you set that up and I'll have a Zoom with John Cleese.
Okay. I don't think I can get him to the basement, but
that's why I'm Zooming with the man. I even had the wherewithal to just say, I will Zoom with John Cleese.
Okay. I will look at that for sure.
Another big name I'm going to ask you about, just after I, again, remind people, there's another podcast from Nick Iones called Building Toronto Skyline, because he's in the development business. And it's pretty educational and interesting, and I urge you to check it out. But one last tip for the listenership and for you, Victoria, which is, if you have old electronics, old devices, old cables, don't throw them in the garbage, Victoria, because those chemicals end up in our landfill. Here's what you do. You ready? You're going to take a mental note here?
I am.
You go to recyclemyelectronics.ca. You put in your postal code, and you find out where you can drop that off to be properly recycled. It's good for everybody.
It's a great idea.
Got it, Victoria?
I do. I've got some in my storage, so I will put that on my list to do.
We all do. Like, I went through this exercise because of the great partnership I saw what they were doing. Like, I literally had old laptops. I had so much like electronics clutter that was obsolete or broken. And you do think the easiest path is throw this in the garbage bin and it will disappear. But this is uncool. That's an uncool move. You gotta do your due diligence and make sure it's properly recycled. So recyclemyelectronics.ca is where you go. So while I'm beating you up about all the great guests you didn't send to me, I want to ask you about one great Canadian who has yet to make his Toronto Mike debut, George St. Pierre.
Right. Yes. We had a whirlwind day with George, and I had him in Toronto for one day, and we did 24 interviews in one day. It was absolute marathon. It was an absolute marathon, and he was just up for it, because he said, he doesn't need downtime. I said,
but
do
let me
you need
ask
a
you
lunch
this.
break? Anything?
Can they have any uniqueness to them, or is it just the same spiel 24 times?
He has got this thing, and I saw it when I was working with Dolly Parton as well, is that he has an ability to just be incredibly present, and the energy level for everybody is the same. It doesn't wane. He's just an incredible professional when it comes to doing, and I've worked with a lot of people over the years, but I think those are the two people that I would say that have that ability where I just put them through the ringer, and they give everybody
part of the gig, right?
Yeah,
and they're professionals.
Yeah, they're professionals. So yeah, he was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
GSP, so 24, but we couldn't fit in a 25th.
We really couldn't. We
really
could. We really couldn't. And partly, Mike, that would have come down to, the amount of time that he needs to sit properly with you to do the interview, but also geographically, like just
I let Chuck D do 20 minutes.
Okay, well, this is good to know. But geographically, just my grid in terms of where we needed to go and where how to get around and timing the traffic and working with the driver. And all
went
that
to the
stuff.
C&E Band Shell to interview Chuck D.
Okay,
and for Jim Cuddy, I went to the Woodshed.
Okay,
in where's that, Riverdale or where the hell I was.
Okay,
so my point is, depending on who you are, I will definitely come to you if you are deemed of a certain stature, like Gordon Lightfoot, for example.
Okay. So a few things I need to make up.
This?
Yeah, a few things I need to make up for sure.
You know what?
George is lovely, and he's a lot of fun. He's very, very, again, super intelligent, really quick wit, and really a generous interviewer. Like there seems to be no questions he won't answer. Like he's
Did
just
Rudy
there.
Blair get George St. Pierre?
He did.
I see. You know what? Rudy's now I know because I follow Rudy on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So since he came over, we had a great chat. And I was clear on this.
Yeah.
Rudy and I wasn't love at first sight. Like there was a lot of. I'm surprised we actually did it because I think he would own it. Bit of a dick to me over the years, Rudy Blair.
Oh, okay.
The real talk on this program. Victoria, the real talk.
I think highly of Rudy.
I was at a of course you do, because you can help Rudy get people like Gordon Lightfoot. So he was very nice to you, but wasn't always nice to me. But I bumped into him at a Hollywood Suite breakfast that David Kynes throws.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever attend one of those?
I have. Yes.
So because I feel like at the door we met each other and we were meeting each other for the first time. I thought we had met at a Hollywood Suite breakfast, but clearly I didn't leave an impression on you. So maybe this never happened. Like you have no memory of meeting me before today.
I don't. We
may not have met.
We've probably been in the same room, but I don't remember we ever sat and had a conversation before off the phone or email. I don't think we've ever done that in person. So
that is absolutely.
Yes.
We were always talking about Gilmore.
That's right.
Okay.
Or something like that. Yes.
And now Triumph is doing a whole new thing.
Yeah, I'm not involved in their touring.
Right.
I was working with them in their connection with the Coalition for Music Education.
Right.
Music Monday is a passion for me. But I did work with Rick on a number of his personal projects for
as did Blair Packham.
And guess who introduced us?
Yeah, well,
yes.
they're buds, and I believe
right.
Blair produced a new Rick Emmett album, maybe, possibly. Like they're working together in some regard there, but we'll get more about that when Blair visits tomorrow. Okay,
and with Rick, I got to work with him on a few of his projects, and then I had a client based in Australia who was doing lots of shows in Canada, and he was doing a Beatles kind of tribute thing, and I ended up helping him produce that show because he was time zones and what have you, and Rick was one of the singers that we had. We had Rick and Andrew Craig, Damnit Doyle, and Russell DeCarl.
I had coffee with Damnit Doyle's cousin yesterday.
Damnit Doyle, I love her. She's just the best. Yeah, she's the best.
Great. She's doing CBC stuff. And,
yeah.
But her, I just want to shout out her cousin real quick because I met him at the distillery district at Balzac's there. Okay. Sean Doyle, kind of an interesting actor, and had a good chat with Sean Doyle. And Sean Doyle is Damnit Doyle's cousin.
I did not know that relationship. Okay.
There you go. I'm here to...
I missed that podcast. Okay.
Well, Sean's never been on, but this is all private, unrecorded coffee talk here, Victoria. I'll meet you for coffee anytime. You know this, right? Forget where I was going, but I'm worried I was probably going to beat you up over something. But is there anyone else you're working with now you want to shout out?
Well, I'm working with the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame.
Oh, does that bring Blair Packham back? Because I did want to revisit you, because off the top you mentioned Blair Packham.
Yeah. So I was working with Triumph last fall because they were inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So I was fortunate
By
to
the way,
do that.
remind you, I'm going to come back to Rudy Blair. That's where I want to come back. But let's finish the Blair thing first.
Okay. And
we'll close with Rudy.
So, and I'm just working with that amazing organization again for the Massey Hall induction, which will be taking place in September. So that's keeping me very busy. I'm also on the board of the Canadian Live Music Association, which is a real passion for me, and very active with that. And back on the Coalition for Music Education because, I really, it's going to be a loaded thing, but I really believe that music is not just my livelihood, but it actually saved my life, and it's because of having music education funded in public schools, and I know what it's done for my kids. I know what it did for me. I grew up in Jane and Finch in a really difficult situation, and if I hadn't found my music community in the music schools, my life would be very different today. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. A few other things, but also with an amazing woman who ran in the last U.S. presidential election. I'm working with her right now as well on some appearances in California.
What's her name?
Her name is Kamala Harris. Oh.
She has a McGill background, if I remember. My daughter's at McGill right now, but
she did, and I actually I wrote about this something on LinkedIn because the day that I'd spent setting up interviews with her, it really struck me because she is South Asian as I am, and it really made an impression on me to because you come from a culture that maybe doesn't push the women forward, and to see someone like her achieve what she has achieved, it was really inspiring, and have the opportunity to just be in her orbit is pretty exciting.
That's a big name you dropped on me.
It's a pretty big name.
I think there's a lot of us who sometimes in a moment of like peace, we sort of think, what could have been? What would life be like today if she had won that election? Well, I hate to say it, I think that country is not ready for that kind of a leader, but she would certainly be, she would change everything. Just who she is, how she thinks. I find her completely inspiring. The lengths that country will go to avoid a woman president.
Yes. Yes.
And you know what? So that's two. So because obviously, I think. Possibly you could argue the most qualified person to be president in the history of elections was Hillary Clinton. Okay. And
I got the chance to work with her as
okay, wait a minute. So I did go to your website. So let me shout it out now. This is great. So VLPR.
Thank you.
So VLPR, what does that stand for?
Victoria Lord Public Relations.
I knew that. I just wanted you to say it.
It was a quick thing. I didn't put a lot of thought into it.
So VLPR.com. But there is a page I actually was on the other day. There is a page called, I want to say it clear, Our Work. So it's literally VLPR.com/ROUR-work, WORK. That's how you spell work. People come here to learn these kinds of things. Okay. So I'm there and I'm just, there's a list of people you work with. And it's like, just some schlubs. Who's this? Oh, Bill Clinton. Okay. Like this list is unbelievable.
That was really quite incredible. It was November 2024 and it was at the Beacon Theater in New York. He was had a new book out and we did an appearance there. And, I had met him before having had the opportunity to work with his wife. But I going down to New York and I was... the relationship with the client that is producing this shows has evolved. I've been with Howard for about 27 years. So when I started, I was really just doing publicity and I'm now more associate producing his shows. So I was in that role at the Beacon Theater, which was very exciting. And we had a moderator that night by the name of Billy Crystal. And that was pretty exciting to have Billy in the room as well. And
was he marvelous?
Not as much. I find, and I've had the opportunity to work with other comedians, and I find that they're probably the ones that are a little bit more challenging. But to be in the room with the Bills, and a fly on the wall and hear, those offhanded conversations was a bit of a pinch me moment for me, for sure.
Okay, so I hope this isn't embarrassing for you, but because it's on your website, okay, you can. This isn't something from the rumor mill here. This is from VLPR.com. Our Work. Okay. So again, We're just
And it's a sampling. It's a
I'm gonna burn
sampling.
through this list.
It's a sampling.
Okay? Yeah,
I
it's a
couldn't
sampling.
put everybody there. So 33 years. So
And that's funny. I was gonna say all these names are household names, but they're not because I don't actually know this first name, for example. And I know this is alphabeticalized. Okay, so I'm gonna just name some of the people on this list. Okay, you ready?
sure.
Alec Baldwin,
Yes.
and maybe I'll just say them all, and then if you wanted to remark on a couple at the end. But Alec Baldwin, Anderson Cooper,
Yes.
Andrew Ridgeley from Wham.
Yes, that was a Sony project. So I was 18 years on retainer with Sony and did a lot of work for them, including their catalog releases. So I worked with Andrew Ridgeley recently. The list of people I've got to work with them through Sony was just phenomenal.
Okay, so
Phenomenal.
Andrew Ridgeley, though, of course, half of Wham, but the cassette Make It Big went in my Walkman and didn't come out for many, many months when Make It Big was released. I'm just throwing that into the universe. How much I loved Make It Big by Wham.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Bill Clinton,
Yes.
Bob Newhart.
Yes.
Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. Bobby McFerrin, David Suzuki, Dr. David Suzuki.
Who's turning 90, I understand.
You still working with David?
I'm not. I was working with him actually with a Canadian music publisher who had a couple of recordings that he had done that were specifically for children. And so I was working with him on that.
Can you get me Raffi?
I've never worked with Raffi.
I'm thinking of children's
but I did
entertainers
work
now.
with Fred Penner.
I love that
who's
man.
So fantastic.
He's been here.
And Sharon Losenbram. And even recently have done a lot with them. Think the world.
I think I
of
pissed off
them.
Bram because I think I pronounced his name wrong, and I think he got mad at me. But the two survivors have been on Toronto Mike, which was great. Dolly Parton, you mentioned.
Yes.
Georges St. Pierre, we talked about. Gordon Lightfoot, we talked about. John Cleese, we talked about. Kamala Harris, you dropped that bomb on me a moment ago. We talked about Layla Bialy. The late, great Dr. Jane Goodall.
Yes. Again, that was another, Unique Lives and Experiences, one of my longtime clients, and so had the opportunity to work with Dr. Goodall on her appearances. That's the same with Alec Baldwin. It was, again, he was coming in for appearances. But with Alec, I also got to meet him again because he came up and recorded here in Toronto a beautiful interview with Gordon.
Oh, wow.
For his podcast. So got to work with him on that as well.
Loretta Lynn.
Yes, that was a Sony client. And although I never got a chance to meet her, I did send a journalist, Elio Anachi, who's just great writer, to her ranch. And one of the things he said, we got a great interview, but one of the things he was just astonished was she prepared for his visit by baking pies and food for him. She's just a lovely, lovely person.
And now I'm hungry. Okay.
Yes.
A bunch of opera singers who are very, very famous, but I'm, like some guy named Pavarotti.
Pavarotti, yes.
Andrea Bocelli.
Yes. I was working on Andrea Bocelli when I was at Universal, right at the start of his career, and had a real moment, attending his 30th anniversary tour, thinking I was there right at the very beginning. Yeah. Okay,
so now I'm just cherry picking here, but Diana Krall.
Yes, again, that was back at Universal. My background in terms of music training and where I really started was in classical and jazz. So it was early days with jazz.
She's still with Elvis Costello, right?
Yes, and I had and I'm trying to remember what the context was. It was well after I was with Universal. I can't remember what the context was, but I needed to call her, and she was in Vancouver at Mother's house, and I called and I asked for her, and the gentleman said, "Oh yeah, she's just going to be a minute." And while I was on the phone, I was just making time and being sort of silly and saying, "Oh, how's the weather out here?" "Well, it's great out here. I just got my first pedicure of the season." And, "Oh, what color did you get?" And then after we got off the phone, it hit me that I was kibitzing with her husband. So
that's amazing. Who's really a Declan? But,
that's right.
Yes. I can't remember his last name right now. Do you remember offhand? It doesn't matter. But
maybe Costello or something.
Because Costello was like a stage name. It wasn't Costello.
I don't know his real last name. No. Yeah,
it'll come to me. Okay. But okay, couple more here because one is the Searching for Sugarman Rodriguez.
Yeah. And Rodriguez passed in August of 2023, just after Gordon had passed. And it was really, again, I got to know him through working the soundtrack on behalf of Sony, and I got to spend some time with him and his daughter Reagan, and really bonded with them. And they then hired me to represent him on a number of events throughout North America, and I kind of became their go-to. I didn't have the same relationship that I had with Gordon, but it was quite similar in that I was kind of a go-to for him and all the stuff
Jeez,
he
you
was
got
doing,
the 1-2 gut punch there in 2023 then.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, and I lost my dog Charlie at the beginning of that year, so that was a bad year for me. But at the end of the year, I did meet Steve, so then it's all balanced out.
I feel like we should do 90 minutes on Steve.
He won't appreciate that, but yeah, he's pretty great.
All right, shout out to Steve. Will Steve listen to this episode?
He will, and he'll give me a look, I'm sure.
He'll say, where's that beer you brought home? What's going on here? Okay, so here's some monster names I'm going to close with, because, Yo-Yo Ma, big deal. I bike by Yo-Yo Ma way.
I have a wonderful story about Yo-Yo Ma, because, I had the opportunity to work with him a number of times. And there was one year, my son was probably about 10 or 11, and in school, he had just decided to learn how to play the cello. And we were backstage after the concert, and Graham asked Yo-Yo a question, and he says, my teacher says when I'm playing the cello, I have to sit like this, and when you play, you're all reclined. And Yo-Yo said to him, well, what you need to do is to form your body in the best possible way to allow the music inside of you to come out. And he said this to Graham. And then in a room full of people waiting backstage to see Yo-Yo Ma, he took my son to the corner, and they sat for about 15, 20 minutes, and they had a conversation, just the two of them.
That's awesome.
And he's such he's constant teacher and beautiful, lovely person.
Okay, here's the two names I'm going to close on. You ready? Neither of whom have ever been on Toronto Mic'd. I just want to throw that into the universe. But Willie Nelson.
Again, a thing through Sony Music. Yes.
William Shatner.
And that was all through Unique Lives and Experiences, and got to work with him a few times. He's been in the business a long time and likes things very precise. So, it wasn't the best experience, but certainly.
But I've heard he can be crusty.
Yeah, he was crusty for sure.
But not even nice to Victoria Lord.
He's just, if things are done with real precision, I guess he's okay. But everybody has an off day, and I've had a couple of off days with him, but that's fine.
Okay, I look forward to. I guess it's to no William Shatner appearance on Toronto Mic'd. But wow, so. We learned a lot about you. Is there, when you were making your way here to the TMDS studio to make your Toronto Mic'd debut, were you thinking, I hope I get a chance to say this or that? And then you're sitting here saying, oh my God, there's music going. He's playing me off. Because there is time.
Well, there is one other story I do want to tell you.
Please tell me it.
That, I almost got to attend Barack Obama's original inauguration. And that was quite a moment. I had the opportunity to work for many years with this group called Nathaniel Det Chorale, a beautiful African-based choir that did a lot of work. Okay, trying to shorten this story.
Well, I can take down the music if you want to go longer.
So no problem. They were invited. They were sent by Canada House as sort of Canada's gift to the Obamas to have them perform. And this was announced that they were going to be a part of this. And I was pregnant with my daughter Maggie, and I was very sick. I was on bed rest. So we announced that Nathaniel Det Chorale were going to be a part of this historic inauguration, and I ran the press campaign from my bed, and I have a memory of talking to the New York Times to set something up and asking them to hold for a moment so that I could lean over the bed and be sick in the bucket beside me, and then continue on. But I ran this massive campaign for this and that's sort of, I think, my one regret. I mean, don't regret Maggie at all, but I really wish I could have attended that moment with them, because it was huge fan, and I haven't yet had the chance to work with the Obamas, but it's on my wish list.
Barack Obama on Toronto Mic'd. Let's make it happen.
Wouldn't that be something?
Victoria, this was something. Like, how did it go for you, your debut interview?
Oh, it was very easy. I can't believe it's over already. Let's plan another one.
Well, we got to kick out the jams at some point.
Sure, for sure.
I got to do more jam kicking. And I never got back to the Rudy Blair thing, and I think that's for the best. But let's just say I keep my good eye on who you're sending over to Rudy. And when you get somebody on the Rudy Blair show and I realize I would like them on Toronto Mike, you're going to hear from me, Victoria.
Okay, Mike. This is going to be corrected. It will not happen again.
I can be very demanding.
Absolutely. I got you.
I'm an award-winning podcast, Victoria. Podcaster.
And so much fun.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,857th show. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. I already told you, VLPR.com to see all the big names who have never been on Toronto Mike. That's where you go. Much love to all who made this possible. That is Great Lakes Brewery. You got your beer, Victoria. Palma Pasta. There's one in the freezer for you. Nick Iones. Check out his fine podcasts. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. And of course, Ridley Funeral Home. So Peter Gross is here in a half an hour. You mentioned Rudy Blair, 680. So Peter Gross is here. He's making a court appearance in this basement. That's a long story.
Okay.
But if there's time afterwards, I might get Peter to give us an update on what's going on with him and his legal challenges in his life. So that might happen, but definitely tomorrow Blair Packham's here for Rewinder, and there's a very special Nash the Slash episode of Toronto Mike on Friday with all the principals involved, from Colin Brunton to Rob Pruce. It's all happening Friday. Lots going on. See you all then.